It is warm out. And there it is for the second time. Now it's live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gavin Seim Show, late night. Once again, it's good to have you here, whoever's here. There may be none of you here, but we have things to talk about tonight. There's wild and crazy things going on, and we're going to go over them because I've been telling you I'm trying to keep getting videos out. I'm trying to do at least a video a week, even if it's a live stream, and then I take a main topic out of that video. I try to keep a video a week on the topics, despite the fact that the YouTube algorithm will ignore it. But someday, as history passes, these chats we have and these videos I make may even become relevant. Who knows? Maybe not. But maybe someday the people that I'm talking to will realize that what I was saying was correct. And we have to place lines and limits on what we allow these criminals that call themselves government to do. Dehar, Emerald City, Saddle, Turns. Good to see people there in the live stream. Shout out to all you guys. And pop in there. I'm going to make sure we got clean audio, clean video. Everything should be a clean signal. I think I've got the dropped frames issue that we were dealing with a couple months nailed down. We have some very serious and disturbing things to talk about today, but we'll just chat for a minute and get going. What's new? I hope you're all staying out of jail, staying out of the concentration camps, and staying out of the boots, or rather keeping the Gestapo's boot out of your mouth. I'm Gavin Seim, and this is the Gavin Seim Show. It's okay to disagree with some of my politics, but what I don't have a whole lot of patience for, I try to be patient. I try to be Christ-like and kind, but my patience ends when people's rights are being abused. G-Seeker says, I'm just here to see if you say anything unhinged. You notice that in an unhinged society where the ignorant people repeat whatever society and society's masters tell them is normal, those who question the status quo, those who actually go back and study history, those who actually say, wait a minute, I think slavery's wrong. Those people are unhinged. Those people are radicals. Those people are terrorists. You know what this really is? I was actually just thinking about this today because I was watching a Louis Rasmussen video on how society and all the things we buy, like even cars now. Volkswagen has a car and you have to pay a subscription to unlock horsepower. We're living in a world that's like a video game simulation where you're buying perks just to survive. So you buy something that is yours and they try and control you. They try and disable it. We're dealing with companies where people that bought these smart thermostats years ago, these companies are now sending forced firmware updates that make them no longer work. Right? So they're literally stealing the product. And all of this is being done in the way of progressivism. Those of us who are unhinged say, no, we have the right to use our stuff. No, if our things don't work, if our cars don't work, if our computers don't work, we have the right to hack them. No, it's not okay for a company to say, oh, it's illegal to hack our software, but we're going to hack into your home and disable it because it's an update, because you violated an arbitrary terms of service. Who's the unhinged ones? Are the unhinged ones those of us that believe that government and politicians and corporations and Gestapo jackbooted thugs should not be able to kick your teeth in and steal your wallet? Are we unhinged? Or are the unhinged and mentally ill people the people that keep voting to take away the rights of others? They keep calling those unhinged who seek to be free. you may have heard of the Overton window, and the Overton window actually describes really well what's happening in our society. The Overton window is the window of discourse. So if you look at this graph, the window is what society accepts, and it's kind of this graph of like policy, popular, sensible, acceptable, radical, unthinkable. So I'm always in the radical stage in the current society. Now, in the society of our founding fathers, I would have been probably in the very normal person stage, because our founding fathers were literally loading up muskets and saying, those people are trying to restrict immigration, we're going to kill them graveyard dead. That's what the founding fathers did. I'm not advocating for violence or anything, although I know this video will get me demonetized because of the things that we must talk about today that are very important. But the founding fathers, to them, I would have been a very mild-mannered, lawyer type compared to most of the founding fathers of the United States. And now, so the Overton window has shifted. Now fascism is popular, sensible, and policy. It's within this range here. And freedom and justice, due process, warrants, a constitution, these things are in the radical and are moving into the unthinkable category among many that support the regime. And we're going to be talking about the regime today. The regime could do anything. The regime can traffic the children. The regime can bring in the prostitutes. The regime can have the drugs. The regime can do it all. But the people the regime accuses of doing those very same things that they themselves do, those people are the bane to society. You see what's happening? Society is mentally ill. This is what's happening, and there was a recent study done on this. Let me see if I can find it. There was a recent large study done, and sometimes these are relevant and I find them interesting, and sometimes they're just repeating whatever the government tells them. This one actually did make some sense, and I forget where this study was, maybe we can find it later or somebody can link it in the comments, but there was a study done talking about these short videos and TikToks and things like that, and they had a scale of the people that they did this study on, and basically everyone under 40, I guess it's good that I'm 40 now. Basically, everyone under 40 is severely brain damaged by all this content, and this, in particular, short form content, where they have no attention span, they have no critical thinking skills, they have no drive. They don't really want to do anything. There's no sense of achievement, and so it's destroying the way their neurology is supposed to function and the way the brain is supposed to mature. And obviously as the scale goes down below 40 and goes toward the younger generations, like our kids, it's much more extreme. So this is why whenever I talk about things that are sensible, people have a 2-second attention span, or they say that I am unhinged, or that I'm a criminal, or that I'm a coward. They just start spewing. They do this all the time. When I make these very sensible posts, if you go to Facebook, and even if you're not my friend on Facebook, you can follow my posts over there. And I make regular posts, and you can also follow them on my Gavin Seim for Liberty page. But my personal page, I actually post more to. And you'll notice that most of the naysayers don't try and debate what I'm saying with any sort of history or facts, which is usually what I'm basing my assertions on. The people that are responding usually say, oh, you're a criminal, you're a coward who ran, you have no say. These are completely gaslighting, hyperbolic arguments that have no relationship to any sort of rational thought. They're just people repeating phrases that they saw on the TikToks and on the videos. So I remember when we were young, our parents called the TV an idiot box, right? But we've gone to a whole other level, because you can use the TV, you can use the computer, you can use long form videos on YouTube. Sure, you can distract yourself and waste your time, but you can learn a great deal about a great many things. But when it comes to these short videos, I see very little benefit. They're designed entirely to keep you glued to the screen so they can keep showing you ads and keep targeting you and see what you're interested in and use those algorithms to sell you things and to manipulate you in your psychology. You don't learn things from TikTok. And when I say TikTok, I mean all these short form. Instagram, Facebook, it's all they shove on you all day long. You can't scroll through Instagram and see your friends' photos anymore. You're just going to be inundated with viral TikTok videos of people shaking their asses or cats playing pianos. Cats playing pianos were fun when the internet was new, but we have real things happening in the world and real things to talk about. And so there's no attention span. And because there's no attention span, there's no critical thought. Nobody's stopping and spending hours. I've spent hundreds of hours researching history and studying immigration history and writing articles about it and studying the reality of why all immigration restrictions are illegal and immoral. And so when I assert that in articles that back up my points with validations, here's the article right here. This is my main one. And I spent years building that. That required attention span. It required research. An AI didn't write it for me. I had to do the work. I had to learn something. And so you have all these like short form videos, and you might think, oh, I'm learning something from those, but while it's possible, you would normally see something from those that would prompt you to go to a real video to learn something, right? And most of the time, a good portion of what you see in those viral videos is actually completely false. It's AI generated, or I mean, even recipes in those videos are oftentimes completely fabricated. Like if you actually go to make them, I don't know if most people realize this. Like people are like, oh, well, I watch cute cat videos and cookie recipes on TikTok. If you like those things, the algorithm will show you that on these short form videos. The algorithm within an hour will know your psychology, and then it will start selling that to the highest bidder. But the thing is, the content doesn't have to be real. They say, oh, we have filters to protect the children, or we have filters for fake news. But in reality, when you get to those short videos in particular, there's no validation at all. If you actually make a lot of those like viral recipes on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, you'll just have slop come out that's inedible because they're not real. They're just making them up to make a video, to feed an algorithm. But I know I'm always talking about things too serious. This is why there's only 20 of you here, right? This is why no one's commenting. I get on here and I talk to you about real things, and we no longer have an attention span anymore. I forgive you because I know in most places in the world it is 1 o'clock in the morning. But at 1 o'clock in the morning, my brain is still going as fast as it is at 9 o'clock in the morning. And albeit sometimes more tired, but that tired lower frequency state sometimes makes me a little more creative. And yes, these things are addicting. I mean, you know, Twitter, or formerly X, formerly Twitter, you know, all these things can be addicting. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos. That's probably why I spend more time on the platform. Even though Google as a company is evil, right? But this is where the videos are. This is where you have to go if you want to upload videos. So I have this channel, and I also have my photography channel, which is completely the opposite of this, in that it's my work, it's my photos, it's my classes, things like that. It's my day job. But I consume a lot of content. I learn a lot of things from that. But that's not the only place I learn. I don't take one video's word for it any more than I take one tweet's word for it. And the problem is it's easy to get into the algorithms, because remember, on these platforms, the algorithm is going to give you what you respond to. And so I'm always trying to break out of the algorithm and be like, oh, I'm going to search for something new. And of course, then the algorithm will feed me that crap. But on Facebook, it's so bad that you can't, like, I don't even want to click on a video. You see a video and it's like, that looks interesting. Oh, wait, it's bait. And then as soon as I click it, they're going to just flood my feed with the same. If I click on a video and it turns out to be AI generated, the next thing I'm going to be seeing is AI generated slop for the next week. Like, the algorithm is so bad, and it's so good. It's so good for the corporation. It's so good for the propaganda. It's so bad for you. The algorithm, remember Facebook? I was on Facebook in 2007. I don't know if you guys were or not. But I was on Facebook the first year. I was on YouTube when it started. Twitter, all these things. I was on all these platforms early on, right? I was on MySpace before that. So, you know, when us millennials were young, if you wanted to share an image or a sticker on your social media profile, you literally had to go learn what the code was to code that into your profile. That's what the TikTok generation, they can't even focus a lot of times for more than 5 seconds without being bored. Unless there's things flashing in front of them and blowing up and things like that. Now, hopefully they'll get over this, but what I thought was interesting in these studies is that the brain damage from these social videos, like I've been saying this for years, and now these studies are coming out and they're like, no, this is not like saying something's wrong here. There's genuine, like the neural pathways of people are wrong. We're regressing mentally because of this. And anyways, here we are. Try to keep absorbing truth, even if you don't always agree with me. And yes, I'll try to keep saying it different. And you know, again, coming back right to that Overton window, I'm in the time period that I live in. I'm always in that radical range, because the popular and policy and sensible range is nonsense. It's fascism. It's destroying people's lives. It's police shooting people on the streets. It's absolute power for government and politicians and the rich, and poverty, and in slavery for the plebs. And this is where we're going, and people are cheering it along. And I think that's the wild thing. But we need to talk about something a little more serious, and that is the Lavoy Finicum murder. So there's going to be, obviously, this will get demonetized. And this is going to be a little sensitive. So, but this needs to be talked about, because I saw this today, and I was just like, all right, I got to do a video on this, because you guys see me doing videos on Jeff Winehouse, and you see me doing videos on James Hamilton and Schaefer Cox, and I've done those for years, and a lot of these people are still sitting in prison without any due process. But this is the Gavin Seim Show. We talk about what nobody wants to talk about. You guys probably know about the Lavoy Finicum, the Malheur Refuge. Most people don't know the real story about that, because the propaganda is mostly what won. But it was a completely legitimate protest against federal overreach and land rights of ranchers in particular that I supported. In fact, when I see these stories and I see the propaganda, I'm like, that's not what happened. I was there, involved in it, right? I talked to Lavoy Finicum a few days before he died. I knew Ammon Bundy and Ryan Bundy personally, and all these people, most of these people, I knew them from the Bundy Ranch. And so, you know, while most of the people that support this have now turned completely against me, because I also support immigrant rights, because I don't support the fascism of the administration and the regime. So now I'm the libtard, right? But really my policies have stayed consistent. I supported the rights of the ranchers. I supported the rights of the natives, the blacks, the Latinos. I just support people being left alone. Here's the video right here from 2/11/16. There was 2 of these. I was the guy running the call when the FBI sieged the Malheur Refuge after they murdered Lavoy Finicum. I was the one on the phone with David Fry, and the politicians were calling me to then get on and talk so that we could have a conversation with the FBI, with the people that were still in the refuge, so that no one else got killed. And no one else got killed that day. And so that was good. It was a wild couple of days that I've talked about on the channel before. But what I want to talk about today is this post here. FBI honors agents involved in Lavoy Finicum standoff with bravery medal. And here's, you know the guy that we're talking about? Here's the Twitter post from this scumbag Kash Patel that the regime supporters are always like, oh, he's so great, right? The regime is so great. Trump's so great. These new laws abusing people we hate is so great. It's not so great, is it, when they're spitting on the grave of our people. And I've been saying this for years. You can go back a decade, and it's been almost a decade. It's hard to believe that it's been almost a decade since they murdered Lavoy Finicum. Because barely a year and a half after that, I left the US because I didn't want them pulling the same stunt on me. And here we are with this so-called hero of the right giving these awards, right? Now, this guy they awarded, he was the guy that was actually charged because he was on the scene helping to murder Lavoy Finicum, and then he tried to hide evidence of what he had done. Okay? And so this is a 2018 article, and of course he was acquitted, right? He worked for the government. But let's look at the actual post. There's this article here, but this is what I want to zero in on, was the screenshot from them. I don't know, this looks like the official post, right? And so here's Kash Patel with this scumbag right here. Wow, that looks like a good, humble, honorable man right there, doesn't it? And these are the people, you got to understand that the so-called patriot movement, who are no longer patriots, they're absolute fed, boot-licking statists at this point. And this is why they hate me. This is why they're always saying that I need to be locked up, that I need to be extradited, that I need to come back and face justice, because they hate that I wouldn't support their faction. I said in 2016 when Trump first ran, this is a scam, you guys. This is a scam. This isn't freedom. He's not gonna be on our side. He's not gonna defend freedom. He's not gonna defend the Constitution. And the second term is worse by volumes. By volumes. Okay? But let's come back to here and see what they say. Recipients are recognized for courageous acts in the line of duty within the scope of their FBI employment. Listen to what they say about this murder. And then we'll look at the video and see what actually happened. The hostage rescue team responded to a violent extremist militia group's armed takeover of the Malheur Wildlife Refuge in Oregon in 2016. There was no violence. There was no extremism. It was a protest of the federal government's abuse and violation of the law and violation of land rights that are law, okay? Even if you didn't agree with them, they were protesting. There was no one there. That was intentional. No one was hostage. No one was hurt. There was no extremism, okay? When the militia's leader, it wasn't really a militia. All the people are a militia, but okay. When the militia's leader and key members planned clandestinely to meet clandestinely outside the refuge, he was going to a meeting with the county sheriff. That was the clandestine meeting outside the refuge. The FBI and Oregon State Police staged a traffic stop to arrest them. The leader rammed his vehicle into the HRT vehicle, trapping SA John Nadart under the leader's vehicle. Two operators freed Nadart, repositioned themselves to address further threats. The leader attempted to fire at Oregon State Police officers and was fatally shot. The HRT operators negotiated the other subject's surrender. The HRT operators didn't negotiate anything. They are a terrorist group. HRT is portrayed as a hero group that rescues hostages. These are an assassin group. These are a hit squad. These are people who operate outside the law. And this is the problem, is if they brand people as heroes, like our police, like our uniforms, like our FBI, who are actually terrorists and criminals of the highest order of our land, engaged in the highest violations of the law. And the news repeats that, and the networks repeat that. Here we go. This is also on my channel from almost 10 years ago now. Here's the actual camera. I think I switched the audio so we don't get an echo. Here's the actual camera of what happened. You can go and watch this whole video if you want, and here's a link after we're done here. But I will does this look like what they just described?
You understand? I'm going to go meet the sheriff. You back down or you kill me now. Go ahead. Put the bullet through me.
Where do you see the violence here?
Care.
Where's Ryan?
I'm going to go meet the sheriff. You do as you damn well please.
I haven't watched this in a long time, and it's sad to watch. But this is a man who has balls. This is a man who stands up for what he believes, and not an ounce of violence.
Well, I'm going to ask them if they want to go out.
What for? Why are we getting
You want out?
What for? What are we getting
Who
out?
are you?
Does this guy look unhinged?
Who are you?
Does this cowboy look unhinged?
Who are you?
Oregon State Police.
Okay, well, I'm going over to meet the sheriff in Grant County. You'll come along with us, and you can talk with us over there.
There we go. Okay. So he leaves, right? We go through here. They talk for a while. And this guy's actually got some balls. This guy actually knows that they're outside the law.
Go get help.
And he leaves. Now they come up here, right? Remember, let's go back to that. Let's go back to their points and see if they were telling the truth. Is the press release true? Let's look at what they said again, okay, from these criminals. Here we go. Here we go. The leader rammed his vehicle into the lead HRT vehicle, trapping John under the leader's vehicle. Let's go back to the video. Yeah, at least we have video, right? Here we go.
I don't know about numbers.
Well, I
Watch
got
them coming
numbers,
up.
but I can't
They set a
call because
roadblock.
We have no service.
Okay.
No, mobile network not available.
All right, here we go.
People here in town.
Helicopter view. They're blocking the road
Hang on.
Okay, they're shooting.
in a corner.
Hang on.
This guy runs in front of the vehicle. Let's do a replay. Can we do a replay on that?
Okay, they're shooting.
He runs in front of the vehicle. He swerves to avoid him. No one was hit.
Go ahead, shoot me.
No one was hit.
Damn, trying to.
Here's the guy over here. I don't see anyone trapped
Stay
under
down.
a vehicle, but he literally ran in front of the vehicle after they put a roadblock on a corner. Now Lavoie jumps out because he doesn't want anyone else to get hurt. Again, no violence, no attempt at violence.
Stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down.
Shoot me.
No gun, no shooting.
Damn it. Are they shooting him? Did I shoot him?
They murdered him in the snow that day in 2016 in cold blood. And the criminals that did it not only weren't convicted of a crime, they not only weren't convicted of a crime, the protesters in the end were the ones convicted of crimes. Although actually Ammon Bundy and many others were acquitted because the charges were all BS. Again, it was just a protest. It was people standing up for their rights and saying, you know what? We don't have to do this. We don't have to live like slaves where the federal government with no accountability can come and take away our heritage, our family's heritage, and our land rights just because of propaganda, just because of new regulations that they invented that violate treaties. You got to understand, I mean, they've got us pitted against each other, but the natives are saying the same thing when they're protesting because the treaties have been violated with the natives too. Go look at the Black Hills, right? Most of that region is actually native land by treaty. It shouldn't even be part of the state. It's their land by treaty, and that treaty was violated. And so the federal government has been violating land treaties since nearly the beginning of our country and abusing. And this is what happens when we think it's okay when they abuse the people we don't like, right? And if you go back, look at this. Here's what they do. People never research. People have no attention span, right? And you look at the images, you look at the stuff, the propaganda. The leader attempted to fire at Oregon State Police. Never happened. We literally have the video. It never happened. Never happened. And so they make this stuff up, and the news reporters repeat it, and the Wikipedias repeat it, and the people repeat it on social media. And this is why I keep telling you, any charge the government brings in this current kangaroo system, I don't care if it's a charge of rape. I don't care if it's a charge of murder. Like, if there's direct evidence, fine, let's have due process. But any of these charges that, and oftentimes when they want somebody to go down, they have things involving children and minors, and they make and create laws and systems and programs, and they focus and they create propaganda to make you hate these people, but they're charging them with the very things they're doing. If they charge us with attempting to fire at the police were firing at us. When they charge us with their sex crimes, it's what they're actually doing behind closed doors. Where's the list? Where's the list, right? All these things they do are crimes for us, but not for them. But the problem is The audacity of Kash Patel. The audacity of people that they're still supporting this regime. And these patriots saying, oh no, like we have to support Trump. He hates the Muslims like we do. He hates the immigrant like we do. This is the problem. This is why you're losing. You're losing because you don't have values. Patriotism is gone because there's no values. Lavoie had values. When Lavoie died, the Patriot movement died. It's all infighting. It's all faction. Because we said, oh, look, now a new idol will save us. And here we are still licking the boots and sucking the beep of rich and powerful politicians who tickle our ears and hate the people that we hate, when instead of hating, we're supposed to be loving freedom. We're supposed to be loving justice. We're supposed to be being kind. We're supposed to be open. We're supposed to be the United States of America, and we're not anymore. We're not a republic. We're a fascist state. We're not free. We're slaves. We don't have a constitution that's respected. We have a constitution that literally the so-called patriots are cheering as it is shredded, as families are torn apart, as concentration camps are built for people who have literally done nothing. And the same propaganda that they're writing in articles like this right here, the very same propaganda that they write these things saying, look how bad they are, look how bad they are, look what they did, illegal, immigrant, whatever they want to portray it as, whatever factions in power is always portraying. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the left has it. When the left's in power, the farmer and the rancher is a villain. When the right's in power, the poor immigrant trying to feed his family is a villain. It's insanity. It's mental. That's what's unhinged. Unhinged is thinking people need papers to live, permission from government to travel, permission to work. Unhinged is thinking that human beings who live on this earth need permission to immigrate, live, work, and breathe, when it is the most fundamental principle of law, which is life, liberty, and property and the protection thereof. And when it is the most fundamental principle of our constitutions, not just in the United States, but in Mexico and in many places in the world, that do not give us rights, but are meant ideally to protect those rights and are subsequently shredded. Why? Because we let the Overton window widen, and we let abuses that are unthinkable become popular policy, and we let freedom-minded sensibility that is popular and sensible become radical and unthinkable. And in that world, let me be radical and unthinkable, because I will not bow down to these factions, to these lies. I continue to debunk it as I have for a decade. I continue to speak the truth about it. And they continue to call me a coward and a traitor and a criminal. And let's see what happens. Let's see what's coming. And to those of you that have been duped by this nonsense of faction and thinking it's right or left, or thinking electing the latest puppet who abuses the people that make you afraid because you lack love, because you lack self-confidence, because you lack an understanding of history, as you stand by while their families are destroyed and then say, how dare they destroy ours? I say, how dare they destroy yours or theirs? Because I stand for liberty. Peace. Very well, that's what I have on tonight's show. It is another video, as always, that the algorithm will ignore, that people will call me crazy and radical for speaking. But remember, we got here because what is policy and normal became radical, and what was unthinkable became policy. Unthinkable is what's being done to people on the streets. Unthinkable is a Gestapo that arrests people without due process, without warrants, that completely ignores the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 9th, and 10th Amendments. Unthinkable is the idea that we need people or permission from government to live when our founding fathers literally fought a revolution. And in the Declaration stated that one of the reasons they fought that revolution was not just the abuse of people's rights, the abuse of travel, the abuse of warrants, the abuse of due process. Yes, it was also the abuse of restricting immigration itself. Everything that the government now does from both parties to abuse and enslave us and make the unthinkable normal, and then policy, and then law, which is not law at all, but a violation of the fundamentals of law itself, becomes normal when you allow it to be. That is all. Okay. Well, there we go. There we go. I don't know if the memorial I think people put it back up when it's knocked down. But here's to you, Lavoie. Here's to you for having a pair of balls. If you think Lavoie Finicum would have been supporting this trash, this partisan trash of, we're winning, we voted for this. Guess what? You don't have the right to vote away other people's rights. And if you do, you're the criminal. If you vote for the Gestapo, you're the Nazi. If you vote to violate and destroy the Constitution, you're the fascist. And history already has its place for you. So we'll see what happens. Ándale, cabrones. Descansa en paz, Lavoie Finicum. Vamos adelante. Vamos a regresar a los tiempos en donde la gente tiene sesos y saben usarlos. Mejor, no? All right, you guys. I don't want to go too late because I know it's late, and I got our main topic in, and I think our main topic was on point. At least I hope it was. Maybe it'll get a few of you thinking. Maybe it'll get a few of you a little unhinged. And no, you won't see Asmongold supporting this. Asmongold is sometimes very logical, but he's so completely brainwashed by this idea that government and their fake laws are power and those who resist them are crazies that he can't even see straight. So while sometimes he does deal with issues in a very logical way and how crazy the world's becoming and how everything's ridiculous and woke and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, but in the end, like most of these popular commenters, the algorithm feeds people that feed your ignorance. They feed people that feed the faction. Because remember, the people creating these algorithms work for the government. So algorithms that maintain you squarely in one faction of right or left, for example, in the case of the United States, ultimately that keeps the people they're in bed with happy, because that division is what keeps us at each other's throats. So you constantly see Asmongold dumping on the immigrant and the fact that people have a right to travel and people protesting that and saying they're crazy. They're not crazies. The people who are out of their minds are the people that think human beings need permission from criminals and criminal syndicates and government rulers who invent laws that are completely contrary to the actual law, which is the Constitution. Unhinged is thinking that those people are crazy. Now, sure, you can look at the left and say the left is unhinged, the left always wants ridiculous things, and they do. I mean, the left, the far left, but this is not an accident. They want to keep us divided. So the left and the people pushing that narrative, say, oh, well, we want men to use women's bathrooms and play in women's sports. And the people that are like kind of thinking things through are like, whoa, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. And so pretty soon we're all divided against each other. The left right now is far more constitutional and defending freedom than the right is. But if you go back 10 years, that wasn't the case. The left wanted the blood of the people who were trying to stand up for gun rights and rancher rights and things like that. As long as they keep us all divided against each other, we lose. And it's really weird to me that when I see just dumb algorithm brainwashed people that are constantly calling me a criminal or calling me, a coward, or saying you ran. Oh, there's one right there. You ran away. When the enemy has a gun pointed at your head and you have a rubber band, you run away. And I'm in good company, believe me, with our founding fathers, with Jesus, with the apostles, with pretty much every religious leader in history, and with pretty much every freedom fighter in history in running away when you can't win a battle. When you see that people aren't behind you, there's no one standing with you, everyone thinks you're crazy for actually believing in insanity. And so the problem is with all these videos that are entertaining us, like the Asmongold's on the right, or then you have the pundits on the left. And so the left is mocking the right for their blind support of Trump and his absolute psychotic fascist policies, his warmongering, and his abuse of the Constitution in every possible way, and the destruction of due process. They're correct. And when the right is railing on the left for trying to have kids in grade school and little boys and make them become little girls, the right is also right. But this isn't an accident. The populists didn't invent this. They were fed this propaganda intentionally from both sides, the left and the right, who are one and the same, so that the people are divided against each other, hating our neighbor, instead of forming communities, uniting and standing up for each other against the uniform thugs that call themselves authority. They're not authority. They're not law. They simply have bigger guns to our heads, and sometimes we have no choice but to walk away if we don't want them to get blown off by those thugs. All right, you guys, I think I've explained myself sufficiently enough, and everybody's tired. I know there's not a whole lot of engagement here in the comments tonight, but I thank those of you who are here. This is the Gavin Seim Late Night Show. We'll see you next time. We'll do another one of these soon. I will share the main center part of this video for our main topic today, talking about Lavoy Finicum. Tonight or tomorrow, I'll separate it out and make it its own video. So please do share that around in whatever social media algorithm that will then turn around and ignore it. But at least we're trying, because our voices do matter. Because if we push hard enough, if we make the radical and the unthinkable concepts of liberty and justice and due process and leaving people alone acceptable and sensible and popular, eventually, theoretically, we can have policy, or should I say law and order, once again. Not this absolute chaos that we have now. Thank you all. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you listening. Stay safe. Love your neighbor as yourself. And resist.